Greetings, dear listeners. Hope you're all doing well. We're out here tonight to welcome the full moon, the full beaver moon of November the 27th, 2023, and to collect some footage for my upcoming upload, Eyes in the Night. Eyes in the Night. So stay tuned for that. But for right now, I'm going to ask our lovely and talented cinematographer, Dr. Curious herself, to give us a panorama shot of tonight's full moon, tonight's full beaver moon of November the 27th, 2023. And be sure to stay tuned for Eyes in the Night. Till midnight. Cheers.
Eyes in the Night. In honor of the holiday season, my wife decided to string some solar-activated Christmas lights around the trunk of the big tree in our backyard. I can see them, red, green, orange, and blue, through the small window as I sit surfing the net during the wee small hours of the morning. It was 3 a.m., the coldest hour of the early morn, and I had just shut the computer down and was taking one last look through the window before going to bed, when I became aware of it, when I saw it, a pinprick of glowing red off to the left of the Christmas lights. I stared towards it and became aware that there were two little red lights. Eyes? The eyes of some animal? I got up and turned on the backyard security lights, and nothing. Just the tree, the low back fence, and the park beyond. I switched off the security lights, and there they were again, two pinpricks of red light. Red eyes? Was it the night floaters? No, it was too cold for them. I turned the lights on again, and the eyes were gone. I turned them off, and they were back again. I sat down to ponder, and then I remembered. When my granny was 18, she left the Scottish Highlands to work as a maid for two Canadian brothers who had rented a house in the haunted English county of Cumberland. Her aunt was employed by them as a cook. The brothers had got the house cheap, as it was very isolated and next to a graveyard. Or so they were told. The brothers hadn't been able to hire any local people as servants because of the isolation and the graveyard, and so Granny came to the Cumberland house. Granny liked the house and enjoyed living in such a remote and austerely beautiful area. The close proximity of the churchyard didn't bother her. She found it picturesque, and on the warm moonlit nights of midsummer, she would stand at her bedroom window and look out over the tombstones and mausolea before retiring for the night. One evening in late August, she was looking out over the graveyard when she noticed two pinpricks of red light. Were some louts from the village prowling around there, smoking and up to no good? But as she watched more closely, she saw the red lights kept an equal distance apart, suggesting a pair of eyes. Some animal? What animal has red eyes? Granny didn't know. She idly watched the eyes moving around in the darkness, and they seemed to be drawing nearer to the low stone fence which separated graveyard from house. But it didn't worry her. Her bedroom was on the second floor, and it was time for bed. 6 a.m. comes early. That night, Granny had terrible dreams. She dreamed that a stunted figure, low and dark, had oozed over the low fence and scuttled across the lawn towards the house. And then it had reached the house and was climbing the ivy along the side. And then it was in her room. And Granny woke up and it wasn't a room. It seized her and bit her throat, and she screamed and screamed and screamed some more. And then her aunt and the brothers were in the room and she passed out. Granny was delirious with fever for the next 48 hours, and not completely aware of what was happening. But she did know that the brothers had assembled the men of the village, and that something had been cremated in a huge bonfire in the cemetery. No one would tell her what it was that they found, that they burned, but she could guess. As soon as Granny was well enough to travel, she was sent to Canada to recuperate, where she met and married my grandfather. She never went back to the old country, but claimed to have always been haunted by a swart evil thing that came to her in her dreams. I asked her once what it was like, and she said, "Its face is gray and thin as parchment, little better than a skull, but cracked and wrinkled, with just a few hanks of stringy hair covering the forehead. It was the face of a rotting corpse, and it won't leave me in peace." Of course, I didn't believe her story, till she showed me her throat, and the bite marks, 2 huge puncture wounds, which had never quite healed. And then I didn't know what to think. And I still don't know what to think. For, you see, I fell asleep in my chair, and dreamed that a stunted figure, low and dark, had oozed over our fence, and had scuttled across the backyard, and had entered the house, and its face was gray and thin as parchment, little better than a skull face, cracked and wrinkled, with just a few strands of stringy hair covering the forehead. It was the face of a rotting corpse. I don't remember what happened next. Was it a nightmare? Perhaps. But if so, why do I have these 2 small wounds on my throat? Wounds that appear to have bled. Puncture wounds? Or are they just zits? Zits? What do you think?